this now? Is this better?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
yay. Okay, so we just had a couple of technical difficulties to start this live. That's okay. Those things happen.
That it does. That is
Right? How are you doing today?
doing good. It's a beautiful day, Just did some grocery shopping and back at the crib
Oh,
talking
nice.
to y'all.
What did you get for
Yeah.
groceries?
Everything. It was the full haul, all the stuff that we needed that we were low on. Yeah. And we don't drive, so whenever we can get a ride, we just try to get whatever we can.
There you go. I feel that. Yeah, I didn't have a car for a long time, so I would like plan it out. Like 1 week out of the month, I would like just go every day so that I could try to like walk to the store and like only take it back as much as I can carry. Yeah.
Times.
So, how did you get your start in art? I love to ask that question first. I like to know a little bit about like your background, like why sneakers, like what are you all about?
Yeah, so I'd say I got my start in art by being born. I don't know, it was just kind of like a thing that has always been a part of my life for as long as I can remember it, even before I could. My mom, she was artistically inclined when she was younger, of course. Yeah, and then of course, growing up in Seattle, we're surrounded by art all the time, like everything.
Yeah.
So that definitely played a huge part in, my artistic inclination. And yeah, for as long as I can remember, I was always kind of like painting or creating something, and I found creativity in all of the things that I did, whether it be dance or basketball or, fashion, whatever it was. I just wanted to be a creative and an individual in those things. So
That's
yeah.
very cool. So you did dance and basketball too. Like those are definitely art forms.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So is that kind of like where your thing about sneakers came from, like from your basketball days, or?
Yeah, I definitely say so. And I'd never made that correlation, but I've always been, a bit of a sneakerhead. Even when I was younger, I remember the first pair of Two Game 12s that I got fourth grade, so yeah, man. But yeah, of course, like having favorite basketball players and just watching, Sonics, and all the players, yeah, definitely like played a role. I sort of, I was always a bit of a tomboy too. Like I don't sneakers, but and shorts and stuff. I was always playing basketball, so I was kind of like in that type of gear. And so I definitely said that played a huge part in me choosing sneakers as a canvas, as I began to paint sneakers as a hobby in middle school and high school.
So just real quick side note, how did you feel when we lost the Supersonics?
Oh, that was a herder, man. That was a huge, that hurt like Seattle culture. You know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
that was the beginning of gentrification.
Oh my gosh. I never even thought of it that way, but I think you're right, dude.
Yeah, because that was such a huge part of the city culture too. Because my mom talks, like Gary and Sean would throw parties around the city. You know what I mean? Like how much of a huge part of that, was Seattle's culture. It wasn't just about going to the game, about hanging out with the players, around the town. But
right.
That Seattle scene. So yeah, that was a herder for sure.
Wow, you definitely just gave me about.
I mean,
I'm glad I had a side note.
yeah,
So,
man.
do you have any of your sneakers that we can look at, like just around?
Shit.
If not, okay.
I don't. I just moved a couple months ago, so all my stuff is still kind of in bins around the house. Like I haven't even set my studio yet. People have been asking me when can I get my shoes done? And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not there yet. I'm not ready. So
Yep. Congratulations on the move. And I mean, I think that's super important too. Like sometimes I think, especially when you're an artist who sells their work or like markets their work out to people, like sometimes people think you're a machine. And so I think that's really important that you're setting those boundaries and not trying to force yourself to do stuff when you're not ready.
Absolutely. And my style when it comes to cuts, like I really like to take time. And there's people out there that can crank them out like, you know, weeks at a time, but I really like to like get into a project when it comes to customization because it's such a detail oriented process and art form, honestly. Like you have to do so much work just to get the shoe ready for paint, you know what I mean? Like, and I think it's important for people to take their time with it so that the finished product is something that can last forever, you know? So
Yeah,
yeah, definitely like projects. I'm if you want like a bunch of pairs of shoes done, like you know, might not be the person for that job, you know. If you prefer quality, then I'm your girl.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah, man.
fantastic. So, you know, I think that speaks also to something else just about your work too, that not only does it take a long time to get the shoe prepared, but you seem like you want to try really hard to actually like get to know the person and like make sure that you're reflecting them well in the finished product. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, for me, sneaker customization, especially with the more detail-oriented sort of asks and designs from people, is a collaborative effort. You know, it's like it's not just me painting a shoe for you. It's like you have to wear that thing. You have to feel confident in it. You know what I mean? And I want you to feel a part of that. I want you to feel a part of the process. So I send like progress reports, letting people know like where I'm at with the thing, and like you know, we go back and forth on design concepts and colors and images and arrangements. And like, I really want the person that I'm providing the custom for to feel like they, you know, own it. Like I want people to have that sort of ownership. And it's not just about, you know, having a dope pair of sneakers. It's about having a story, you know, it's about, you know, style. It's about longevity, you know what I mean? And it's not just about cranking a for the sake of having product, you know? And so I really want like when people work with me to kind of like have that sort of mindset and just be more, how do I say, more interested in, you know, a work of art as opposed to, you know, a sort of now trendy kind of thing.
Right. So what you said so much there. I think I want to go back a little bit to what you said about story. Like how does art and story fit together for you? What's similar about those two things? How are they tied in?
Hmm. I mean, I would say, you know, art is one of the greatest forms of history, you know. You know, we have our oral history, we have our written history, and we have our visual, you know what I mean? Like and all of those different facets have their own language, you know, and images tell a story that words can't, you know what I mean? And sometimes, you know, words tell a story that images can't, you know, but we're all inclined to different directions. Like I've always been a very visual person, you know what I mean? I learned visually and I also put out visually. And only until recently have I been like speaking more, you know what I mean? And like kind of like telling my story and establishing myself as an artist verbally, you know what I mean? Like it's always kind of been about, I'm not really gonna speak about it, I'm just gonna be about it, you know, art.
Mm.
But as of late, I've been finding myself to sort of like you know, let people know verbally where I'm at with all of this, especially given all the things that are going on in the world right now and, you know, how
Yeah.
we express it, how we represent, you know, the times artistically.
Yeah, that's real. And I think it's a lot of artists. We even had an artist last week, Moses' son, who was kind of saying something similar about his work too. That in the past he hasn't really been super vocal about it, or hasn't been maybe as like, you know, look at me about my art. But realizing, coming to a place of understanding that it's not really you trying to like be an attention seeker. It's more that you've been kind of given this gift, and it's now your job to sort of put it out into the world and make it known.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, you know, even as artists, we don't understand where a lot of it comes from either, you know, like a lot of
That's
the times create and we're just like I don't know how to explain that, it just is you know. So I think it's important to be able to like put some sort of like, words to it and that and create that sort of connectivity between you know what's created, what we see, experience it.
for sure. So when I said Moses' son, you kind of put a smile on your face. Are you guys familiar?
Yeah, that's homie. Shout out to Moses. I think I saw Angel in here too. um
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we did a thing about a little over a month ago. We created the Black Lives Matter mural on Capitol Hill, and Moses was one of the artists that I chose to be a part of that. He and I have been, homies for a while now, on the art scene and just, personally. And I was super happy to have him on that project. And since the creation of that mural, we've actually started a collective that we call Vivid Matter Collective. And so now we're just out here supporting each other artistically and making dope art all over the city.
Very cool. So tell me more about the collective. How did that start, and what is it about?
Yeah, so it basically started from the project. So a little background on the mural would basically be like my buddy Joey Nix, who owns the Jupiter Bar down in Belltown. Very well known, muralist. He's incredible here in this city. And he and I have been trying to collaborate on some works around, creating murals about what's going on, COVID to, civil unrest that we're experiencing now, police violence and all of those things. And we were just like, man, like, what are we going to do? And he and I were just kind of like talking about it. And he was scrolling his Instagram one night and saw the Black Lives Matter mural that happened in North Carolina. And what they did with theirs is they had individual artists do each letter, and so it made it a little bit more impactful, a little bit more dynamic, and just kind of like made the story that much deeper. And so he was like, yo, we need to do this here. And literally like the next morning we were out there rolling paint on the concrete. So,
That's what I'm talking about.
We didn't ask no permission, you know what I mean? And Chop afforded us the opportunity to just kind of get out there and do it, as opposed to just like having to like wait on the city and go through the gatekeepers and all the bureaucracy and red tape and all that nonsense. We were just like, let's just do a thing. And so we did that. And then my part of that was basically putting together or curating a list of artists who would then take on those individual letters. Moses, well, of course, was one. Angel 179. I see Stats in here. Camille Turner, Ari Glass, Perry Roden, Perry Paints. We had, the list goes on. We had some heavy hitters out there for sure. Yeah, we just did a thing, and it happened so quickly that we were just like, okay, it's done, and we just kind of dipped out. But we were like, no, like as the time went on and as the energy like continued to just bubble and grow, we were like, yo, we actually really did a thing, you know what I mean? And we're on world news and ABC is calling us, and you know what I mean? So it was just like, whoa, this is crazy. So we were like, how do we continue the narrative? How do we, uphold that message? And so we created a collective and just kind of like doing stuff since.
That's incredible. I think not only did it have a global impact, but it had a huge impact locally too. Like similarly to how you said, like Chop kind of afforded you the ability to just go and do it, as opposed to, having to go through the bureaucracy. I think that's a really incredible and revolutionary way to look at the process. And it's sort of the way we're trying to evolve or maybe return back to some of our ancestral ways of going through process of that. We have a story to tell. This is our story. This is our land, actually. And so thank you so much for being the person that curated those artists together. That's incredible. And thank you so much for telling us some of that backstory, too. It's really beautiful to get some of that. I was actually there when you all were putting down the white paint. So I wasn't there when you guys did when all the individual artists did their pieces. But I was there when the white paint was going down, and that was really amazing to see.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too, oh, sorry, what?
I was just saying the energy was crazy around that because no one knew that we were going to have artists come out the next day. And so everyone saw the white lettering and was like, yeah, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then they were like, what the, you know what I mean? Just like, minds blown. So yeah, it was tight.
Yeah, that was my reaction. I was like there. I was like, oh, I'm witnessing something amazing. Like I got the first scoop. I'm seeing the bee go down. And then the next day I wasn't at Chop and I looked on Instagram and I was like, whoa, I didn't even see the half of it. That's incredible.
Totally. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. So like, how do you see Vivid Matter Collective moving forward now? And like, do you think that you guys are going to be engaged in kind of like, trying to work on how some of the process goes and if it's like more, I guess, like artist owned? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of, organizations, private nonprofits are looking to figure out what that looks like You know what I mean? We've been getting
Yeah.
a lot of attention from a lot of different organizations in the city about how can they partner with us. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's been very interesting to kind of like have that platform, if you will, or have that sort of spotlight on us in that way. And I'm very thankful to have the group that we have, so many incredible, you know, multifaceted artists in one sort of conversation that I can go to and be like, hey, how do you guys want to do this? You know what I mean? And it's not just on me,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So to be able to have those conversations and from that dialogue and learn from that, you know, sort of brainstorming that's taking place, you know, it's definitely very empowering as an artist, because you don't really feel about this, especially when you're on the solo. You know what I mean? You're just kind of out here in art, and you're not really sure how to stake a claim or make a name for yourself when you're, you know, on the solo. You know, but so to have like the sort of backing of a collective makes it all the more impactful. And I really feel like we can make some change with how these organizations treat artists, how they, support them, how they utilize their intellectual property, how they pay them, you know what I mean, and what that looks like moving forward. Yeah, I think it's high time that, you know, we are getting the respect and the earnings that we've earned, you know, because the creativity that we bring to a space is like so enriching on a like a cellular level, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
To live in a neighborhood, to live in a city where it's just like square boxes and gray and brick and concrete, you know what I mean, as opposed to something that's colorful, you know what I mean, as opposed to as imagery that reflects the culture, that reflects society, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. The sea makes it more habitable and makes it more diverse, you know what I mean, and art. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think, oh, sorry.
I was just saying, pay up, give us our due. Like we earned it. You know, we do that work. So yeah, man.
Served. I read a study once about how just by virtue of an artist living in a neighborhood,
Mm.
that makes the property values go up.
Mm.
Just by that artist's like physical presence being there, the property values go up. And I don't remember exactly how they made that connection, or if it was like causation or correlation or whatever, but I thought that was incredible. The more artists that live in an area, the more valued that area is. And so it's so interesting, like you kind of spoke to this a little bit, like how undervalued the actual artists are, you know, like their person, their soul, like their body, their physical needs, you know, like super undervalued, and yet people highly value the products that come from them. So I'm one of my hopes, like just watching the Vivid Matters collective kind of grow and seeing what you all did with the Black Lives Matter sign, especially in CHOP, and just how um, truly democratized that was. Like not democracy, how you know the USA thinks it's a democracy, I guess. But like truly democratized and kind of like circle oriented that was, you know, and like community oriented that was. I'm interested to see like how that culture can kind of move forward and how we can go to a space of, if you appreciate the product, you need to appreciate the producer, even maybe more than the product.
Yeah.
I want to
Because if
see that.
yeah, I do too. I absolutely do. And I think you know there's room for it. You know what I mean? Because real talk, we would do it for free. You know, like that is a part of us. You know what I mean? It's our sustenance of life. You know what I mean? To look at every event and try to make it as creative as possible. You know what I mean? I think that's a human, you know, element. It's an element to humanity to have to kind of figure out. I think society and the restrictions and the structure that society, specifically with government and politics, is very, you know what I mean? It's like
Uh,
want this thing to look like this, and you're going to do it this way, and it's going to be shiny and new, and you know what I mean? No nuance, no, you know, no mistakes, you know what I mean? Like perfection is boring, you know? Like, so, but that's what these structures strive for. And that's not human.
It's not human, and it's not the way of the earth either.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I think these sort of institutions are threatened by artists, honestly, because we know that on a cellular level that is not, you know, and we're all trying to find different ways to sort of show and pull back the blinders and move the veil, you know, be like, hey, this isn't real, you guys, you know, love you, but also, you know, if
That part.
with yourself, your humanity. And I think, you know, the earth is showing us too, like we wouldn't be going through these things if what we had done thus far was like these things wouldn't be happening if we were treating each other, you know, as equals, if we're treating the world as an equal, you know what I mean? So you just gotta look around, see the signs. Like this not, you know, by chance. Like
Right. And I really appreciate what you said too, just about like nature as well, because it's and relationship. I think that I mean, this is personal beliefs that climate change is definitely a product of white supremacy, and it's a product of being not in right relationship with each other, which is what white supremacy is, and colonization and all of that. And I think that like what you're speaking to has the capacity to not only heal our relationships between each other, but to heal our relationships between ourselves and the earth, like ourselves and the animals, you know, ourselves in the sky and everything. So like again, yes, the artists are so important. Thank you so much for doing this work that you're doing. This is literally the work of revolution.
appreciate that. And I think one of the homies wrote in here, every generation has its revolution, you know, and this is ours. And you know, we really have to like show up, you know. And so I just hope that I'm showing up in the best way that I can, and I hope people feel seen and feel heard, you know, and feel honored by the things that I do, because that is always my goal, you know what I mean? Like I'm about doing what's right, and not doing, you know, what is, you know, palatable, you know? Like
Right.
I'm here to shake head, you know, shake heads. I'm here to shake tables. I'm here to change narratives. I'm here to, you know, push humanity forward and get people to like really look at themselves and look at what you're doing, and figure out, you know, what needs to change in order for all of us to move forward. If you don't see yourself in a child of Yemen, if you don't see yourself in a child in an internment camp or in a detention center, if you don't see yourself in a woman on a ventilator, if you don't see yourself in a disabled person, you know what I mean? That's a problem. You know what I mean? So for people that don't look like you, there's you have to do a lot of soul search. You have to do a lot of change. We have to see ourselves reflected in everything that we do and everything that we encounter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. We're running a little bit low on time, but before we close, I wanted to ask you, I noticed that you had some pieces up about Black queer lives on your Instagram. And so
Yes.
you're saying about, you know, you need to see yourself in everyone. And I know that Black queer people have been kind of the movers and shakers of everything that's good in this country ever, probably. So tell me more about like, why do you have that on your page? What is that to you? What does that mean to
Yeah.
you?
I am a Black queer woman artist. You know what I mean? Lots of um, I've been myself my whole life, you know, and it has, you know, it's been challenging. It's a challenge, and so in order to, you know, survive those challenges, you have to create, you know, create response ways to life, you know. And I think, you know, just as a, yeah, I've really been a little bit more outwardly expressive about who I am and what I stand for, and relationship with my partner for over 6 years. We're both performers around the city, and you know, yeah, I think it's just we, like, the most marginalized people are probably like the truest people. They're the truest form of humanity, in my opinion. Like, the more you break those things down, like we can talk about our trans brothers and sisters, like they are the stuff. You know what I mean? They are the
Yeah.
stuff of black of humanity, and they, you know, the way society treats you, I think, really does determine just how important you are. You know, um, and it's sad that, you know, the fact that we are losing so many people, you know, because of that sort of denial of truth. You know what I mean? And people are so hell bent on maintaining their comfort, you know, that they are, you know, sacrificing one another to maintain your semblance of, you know, what is comfortable. And it's not right. It's not right at all. It's really not right. And so I'm about what's right. And so that's what I'm trying to push and amplify forward.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for doing all of that.
Of course.
So before we close, I have two final questions. The first is, when you do have your studio put together and you are ready to start creating and producing again, where can we find that news? Or if that ends up not being something you ever do again, where can we find you anyway so that we can follow what you're doing in the world? Because you're doing amazing things.
Thank you so much. You can find me on Instagram at Takiyah Customs. And for dance and performance, you can find me at Taqueets. That's TAQUEETS. I also have a website for the custom and artwork stuff at twcustoms.com.
Great. And then your collective, I think, has a website too, yeah?
Correct. We are also on Instagram at Vivid Matter Collective. And we also have a website. It's connected to my website now, but we'll have our own sort of thing pretty soon. We also have a WordPress that's at Vivid Matter Collective.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. And then, so just lastly, last question is, what would you like to leave the audience with? I always like to let the artist close.
I would say.
Oh, are you still there? Oh no. Did we lose
I'm
you?
here.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay, you're still here. So, how would you like to close? What would you like to leave the audience with?
I would say I'm looking right now and I see we have 11 viewers, and 11 is my number, so I'm very happy about that. I would just say to close, just stay creative is my tagline for art. Like, just whatever you're doing, whatever sort of situations you find yourself in, just come from a place of creativity. Really try to find the creative, you know, sort of element of everything that you do, because it's going to allow you to open up choice. And, you know, we all have choices in life. We all make choices in life. You know what I mean? Some people choose not to wear a mask. Some people do, you know? So, you know, just find the creativity in those choices. And I think we will all be better off for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And it was really an honor to have you on the show. And I look forward to following you and your collective more.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Hope to see you soon in the world.
Yes. Bye.
All right. Take care. Peace out, y'all.